Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy, carrying on with the franchise review series and draft review series today, continuing on with the final pair of divisions, and that being the two Western divisions. This episode will be focusing on the Kansas City Chiefs. So for this series, if you've not been following, what I'm doing is I'm breaking down the last 10 years worth of records, pointing out any playoff appearances, giving you the total win-loss total over the last decade, highlighting any coaching changes, and then grading each of the last 10 drafts for said team. And then on Friday, during my weekly review, I'm going to use all that information, put it all into context, and we'll be able to come to some conclusions about draft success and overall team success in the last decade. I'll explain the grading system once I get to that part of the episode again. If you've seen one of these before, apologies for having to go through that again. So the Chiefs have had 4 head coaches in this time frame. You had Herm Edwards for 2007-2008, Todd Haley from 2009 through 2011, Romeo Crennel for the 2012 season, and Andy Reid, who's done a great job, by the way, has been their head coach ever since. In the last 10 years, the Chiefs have amassed 72 wins and 88 losses, 4 playoff appearances with 2 division titles in that time. A lot of that coming recently, of course. Andy Reid's turned them around, made them pretty consistent and a pretty talented roster overall. So getting to the draft, so what I'm doing is I'm going through the first 3 rounds. So these are the rounds you're expecting to get starters or at least contributors to your team. If the pick is a solid one, and being a bit more strict with first rounders, of course. If it's a solid one, it will add +1 to the team's overall score. A player you'd be happy to select at that kind of spot. If it was an unimpressive but an acceptable pick, it won't affect the score. And if the player was a bust, that will subtract 1 from the team's overall score. Anyone picked in rounds 4 through 7 that's had an impact, most of these players don't even play in the league, that player will be highlighted as a value pick and add +1 to the team's overall score. So going back to 2007, the first round draft pick of the Chiefs was Dwayne Bowe, the wide receiver, selected 23rd overall. He had a pretty good career in Kansas City. Of course, he then signed with the Browns and proceeded to do nothing, and he's currently out of the league. But he had a good career there. I'd say he was a solid first round pick, was their number 1 receiver for a long period of time. And even if the wheels ended up falling off, I think it was definitely a solid pick that they made there. In the second, Turk McBride, a defensive lineman, was there, played for a while, had an okay career but unspectacular, no grade there. In the third, Tank Tyler, another defensive lineman, he did nothing. He's a defensive lineman called Tank, he should have done something. Either way, he is a bust. Now going into the 2008 draft, I've got a highlight here. Basically in the Friday episode as well, I'm going to do my 10 favourite and my 10 least favourite draft classes of the last decade. This one's certainly a contender for one of the best. And that's in spite of the first round pick, Glenn Dorsey, with the 5th overall pick being a bust. Just never achieved any level. Like, he's been a starter throughout his time at 5th overall pick. You're expecting someone who's going to be a top player at the position. He has definitely not been that. That's an easy bust. A second first rounder, Brandon Albert, with the 11th overall pick, the offensive tackle. He's had a good career. Injuries have been unfortunate, but that was a definite solid pick there. In the second, Brandon Flowers, the cornerback. He's had a very good career, was a good player for them. Still playing to a reasonable level to this day. That's a very solid pick. In the third, Jamal Charles, was an absolute home run. He's been one of the best running backs in the league since he's been in the league. Of course, the injuries have been a disappointing factor of the last 2 years of his career. In the third, Brad Cotton, defensive tight end. He's been a bust, or was a bust. Also in the third, Dewan Morgan, a defensive back, or Dewan. He was also a bust. However, in the 5th round, they also picked up Brandon Carr, the defensive back. That is another solid pick. So whilst there are a number of busts in this class, they got 4 quality starters. So that's a fantastic job. It's certainly going to be in consideration. In the 2009 draft, they selected Tyson Jackson with a 3rd overall pick. He was an absolute bust, had a very poor career. In the third, Alex McGee, another defensive lineman. That's another bust there. Moving on to 2010. In the first round, they selected Eric Berry with the 5th over. Was it 5th? Yeah, it was the 5th. Yeah, great pick. One of the best safeties in the league, if not the best safety in the league. No regrets there for the Chiefs. Great job. In the second, Dexter McCluster. I've gone for... I've been too kind there. It should probably be a bust. It could be mediocre. I mean, he's a very good return guy. They used him, for the odd play here and there. I've given it no grade. Should probably have given it a bust. I may adjust that grade for tomorrow's show. Also in the second, Javier Arenas, defensive back. He was a bust. In the third, John Asamoah, the guard. He was a solid pick. He's a good player. Also in the third, Tony Moeaki. That's a tough one. He looked really good for a spell of a couple of seasons as a receiver, then suffered a bad injury, never recovered from it. I'm not going to grade that as a solid or a bust. It's just in the middle. And in the fifth, Kendrick Lewis, the defensive back. He's a pretty good player. He goes down as a value selection. Moving on to 2011. Oh wow, I remember this one. John Baldwin with the 26th overall pick, wide receiver. Yeah, that's an easy bust. Absolutely nothing there. In the second, Rodney Hudson, the centre. I think he's been an okay player in his time in the league. Not quite good enough to be a solid, but not a bust either. Perfectly reasonable. In the third, Justin Houston. Yeah, that's a home run right there. One of the best pass rushers in the league. In the third, Alan Bailey, a defensive lineman. Mediocre. He's contributed here and there. If it was a second or a first, it'd be a bust. In the third, I'm willing to not grade that. 2012 draft, Dontari Poe, the nose tackle with the 11th overall pick. Had a good career in Kansas City. Going to be plying his trade for the Falcons next year. I think that was a solid pick. He played well for them. Not great last season, but good overall career there. In the second, Jeff Allen, the offensive lineman. No grade attached to that one at the minute. Similar with Donald Stevenson. In the third, I believe he's playing for the Broncos at the minute. Either way, yeah, I'll need a bit more on them before I'm willing to give those definitive grades. Moving on to the last, few drafts, I'm a bit more generous with some of these. Some of them haven't necessarily played enough for me to give them a definitive grade. Of course, especially players from the last two drafts. If I do feel strongly about a player, however, I will grade them. I do not particularly like sitting on the fence myself. 2013, I keep saying this, one of the worst drafts of all time. Chiefs had the first overall pick in that draft. They picked up Eric Fisher. Now, he has improved over the years. He's now become a competent offensive tackle. However, he was the first overall selection. It has to go down as a bust at this point in time. In the third, Travis Kelce. Yeah, that's a home run. He's one of the best receiving tight ends in the league. Probably the best last year once Gronk went down with injury. Very good player. In the third, Niall Davis, the running back. No grade there. He's okay. Not really done too much. Could probably edge towards bust, but I don't know. And 2014, D Ford, the linebacker. Played great last year with Justin Houston missing a chunk of the season. Looks like he's going to be a really good player. Expect to see him take over Tamba Hali's spot, of course, with him getting older. Looks a very good player, giving that one a solid. In the third, Philip Gaines, defensive back. He has been a bust. And in the sixth, Laurent Duvernay Tardif, the guard, signed a long-term extension. I think they maybe overpaid a bit, but they see something in him. And either way, sixth rounder, he's been a fantastic value pick for them. 2015, with a first round selection at number 18, Marcus Peters. Yeah, that's another easy home run. It's been a stellar start to his career. Fantastic player. Really improved last year. As an all-round corner. May not have got as many picks, but I think he was certainly a tougher player to get and make plays on. In the second, Mitch Morse, a guard. No grade there. In the third, Michael Conley. Is it Michael Conley? Anyway, O'Conley, wide receiver. He's done nothing to this point. No grade there. And also in the third, Stephen Nelson, defensive back. Nothing attached to that one either. And last year, no first rounder, but Chris Jones in second, a D lineman, nothing there. Kaverai, Russell, corner, yeah, nothing there. Need to see more of these guys. In the fifth, Tyreek Hill, Happy to give that solid at this point. Obviously went on a bit of a tear in the second half of the season. Looks like he's finally given them legit speed threat and deep threat. Played pretty well at receiver. Obviously stellar as a return guy. I could have probably given him a solid just for the work he's done in the return game, but the fact he's also contributed on offense as a 5th round, that's an easy value pick right there. So in totality, the Chiefs, reasonable job. 12 solid picks overall with 3 value on top and 10 busts, giving them a +5. It's a fairly middling kind of score. First round, 6 of them have been solid, 4 of them have been busts. It's a reasonable ratio. This is one of them in the middle. Now, where I suppose you have to sort of separate these, and this I do plan to elaborate on this at some point in the future, is the quality of starters they've got. Now for this week's episodes, I'm just trying to establish a baseline to build off of with some future episodes, and possibly doing this again in the future as a series. And really with the Chiefs, the starters they have got, particularly in the first round, and some of the guys in the third, have been incredible quality. I mean, you're looking at Eric Berry, D Ford, Justin Houston. Like the standard of starters they've generally drafted has been higher than most teams on average. So, while the grade may not reflect that at this point, it is something that I will be looking to tweak. If you've got any ideas for how to do that, just let me know in the comment section below. Find me on Twitter, the Cover Zero Facebook. I'd be more than happy to hear your opinions, whether you think I've done any of these players an injustice and a disservice. Let me know. I'll do my absolute best to get back to everyone. Thus far, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that. Hope you guys have enjoyed this series thus far. I've really enjoyed doing these. I think tomorrow's episode, as I say, will really bring all this together. Hopefully be very informative and entertaining for you guys as well. So definitely check that one out. If you've enjoyed this as well, check out some more of this series. I also did my free agency reviews last week. But yeah, get in touch. Always appreciated. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for your time. And as always, go Bucks.